During a live morning television segment, the energy was upbeat and the atmosphere professional until a completely unexpected gesture disrupted the flow. The host, ever composed and known for managing interviews with grace, was visibly taken aback when one of the guests made an obscene hand gesture, specifically the middle finger, right on live TV. It was a moment that viewers at home couldn't believe they were witnessing in real time. The host's reaction was immediate and instinctive. Her eyes widened. She let out a nervous laugh and tried to maintain control of the situation. Without skipping a beat, she attempted to cover the guest's hand with her notes, creating a half-joking, half-panicked barrier between the camera and the gesture that had just been made. The incident happened so quickly that it took a second for both the live audience and those watching at home to register what had occurred. Morning shows are typically structured to offer light-hearted, family-friendly content. They aim to wake people up with positive energy, not to shock them with gestures typically reserved for moments of intense anger or jest in private settings. This kind of television isn't known for controversy, so when something unfiltered occurs, it instantly becomes a focal point for conversation and online sharing. Social media lit up immediately, with clips being shared on various platforms, commentary flowing in from all directions. Some viewers expressed disbelief. Others found humor in the moment, and many questioned how such a thing could slip past the careful choreography of a live broadcast. The host, caught off guard yet doing her best to maintain decorum, was heard exclaiming, "You just did an obscene gesture on this family morning show." Her voice carried a mix of astonishment and a desperate attempt to laugh it off and bring things back to a more controlled pace. It was evident she wasn't prepared for the moment. How could she have been? These segments are tightly scheduled, rehearsed, and refined to avoid such situations. The professionalism it takes to recover from that kind of on-air disruption can't be overstated. She not only had to address what had happened in real time, but also do it in a way that didn't escalate the situation or alienate viewers who may have found the gesture inappropriate. Behind the scenes, one can imagine the buzz in the control room. Producers, directors, and technical staff were likely scrambling, deciding whether to cut away, issue an apology, or let it ride out with some sort of commentary. That kind of split-second decision-making is part of what makes live TV such a high-wire act. There's no script to follow when things veer off course, only instinct, training, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. The gesture itself was reportedly tied to a scene from a television series the guest was promoting. However, the YAF segment that aired did not include this particular moment, making the context unclear to viewers. Without that context, the action appeared abrupt and unprovoked, which only heightened its shock value. In hindsight, some speculated that if the full scene had been shown, perhaps the gesture would have made more sense or at least appeared less random. But in the absence of that narrative setup, it simply came across as an inappropriate and jarring interruption. Viewers reacted with a wide range of emotions. Some praised the host for keeping her composure, calling her quick reaction a masterclass in professionalism. Others were more critical of the guest, feeling that the gesture was uncalled for regardless of its intent or origin. Still others saw the moment as a reminder of the unpredictable nature of live television, where even the most carefully curated segments can go sideways in an instant. In the days following the incident, clips continued to circulate, and discussions about what constitutes appropriate behavior on live broadcasts gained traction. It raised questions about guest conduct, the responsibility of hosts, and the line between edgy humor and inappropriate content. It also served as an unexpected viral moment, thrusting the show into a broader cultural conversation that extended far beyond its usual audience. The moment, though fleeting, left a lasting impression on both viewers and the industry alike. The gesture that took place during the live morning show appearance quickly became the subject of confusion and curiosity, prompting an immediate need for clarification. Following the shock and stir created by what appeared to be an out-of-nowhere moment of impropriety, the guest involved offered an explanation that aimed to place the gesture in its proper context. According to the clarification, the action wasn't random or intended as an insult, but was instead a reference to a specific scene from a television series being promoted during the segment. The scene, which had originally been intended for Inclusion in the clip shown on the program was evidently edited or omitted, leaving the live audience and viewers without the necessary background to understand what had just occurred. The explanation was delivered with a blend of sincerity and humor, as the guest pointed out that the gesture had been part of the character's actions within the series, meant to reflect a dramatic or humorous beat from that moment in the show. Without that piece of the clip being aired, however, what was meant as a callback or a lighthearted connection came across as inappropriate and confusing. It was a case of intent versus perception, where the absence of narrative framing drastically altered how the gesture was received by the audience. In defending the moment, the guest remarked somewhat jokingly that, "My hand did that, I have no control," implying that it wasn't premeditated or malicious. The remark may have been meant to diffuse tension, but it also added a layer of absurdity to the already strange situation. The attempt to frame the gesture as a spontaneous, even involuntary, reference to fictional events in a scripted show created a mix of reactions among viewers. Some found the defense amusing and understandable in light of the missing footage, while others were unconvinced, feeling the behavior lacked professionalism regardless of its origin. This explanation underscored a larger issue in the world of live television: the importance of context. When clips are selectively edited or shortened for time constraints, key elements of storytelling can be lost. In this case, the clip aired did not include the full build-up or resolution of the scene in question. Therefore, when the guest mimicked a gesture tied directly to a missing moment, it created a disconnect that made the behavior appear sudden and inappropriate. That loss of narrative continuity turned what might have been seen as a clever nod to a fictional scene into something jarring and potentially offensive to an audience unfamiliar with the context. Live interviews, particularly those centered around promoting entertainment content, often involve a delicate dance between scripted and spontaneous. Guests want to bring excitement, charm, and energy to the conversation while also staying within the bounds of good taste and appropriateness, especially on morning television. When things go off script, explanations, however well-meaning, can only go so far in repairing public perception. In this instance, while the justification was offered quickly and in good humor, it had to fight against the viral nature of the original moment, which had already circulated widely and been consumed in isolation. The moment also demonstrated how media, especially social media, has changed the dynamics of public appearances. The speed at which the clip was shared online meant that the explanation, which came shortly after, lagged behind the initial impression. In the age of screenshots, memes, and short video loops, the gesture had already become its own standalone event, stripped of the full context and amplified in a way that interpretations varied wildly. That the explanation came too late to be included in most of those first reactions shows how hard it can be to control a narrative once it escapes into the public domain. Despite the reasoning given, many viewers were still left questioning the judgment behind acting out such a gesture live, particularly when the context was not guaranteed to be clear. While referencing a show's scene may have been second nature to the guest, it's not always easy to assume that everyone watching would immediately understand the intent. Especially in a family-oriented time slot, the gesture, no matter the origin, became the centerpiece of a conversation about boundaries, appropriateness, and how even a seemingly harmless reference can backfire in the wrong setting. The whole situation became a kind of case study in what can go wrong when intention is not supported by presentation. It's a reminder that even when promoting fiction, actions on live TV carry real-world implications, and the line between character and self isn't always visible to the incident on the morning show didn't occur in a vacuum. In fact, it followed closely on the heels of another unscripted moment that had already stirred conversation, one involving a well-known singer who, just the day before, had dropped an unfiltered expletive during her own live appearance. The timing made the latest gesture feel like part of a trend, not a one-off. This back-to-back sequence of surprising events left both the host and the audience feeling as if live television was suddenly becoming a place of unpredictability and unscripted chaos. When the gesture happened during the interview, the host's astonished reaction was underscored by a somewhat exasperated and humorous remark. "I don't know what's happening." That comment wasn't just a throwaway line, It perfectly captured the mood in the studio and the growing sense that the usual boundaries of morning television decorum were being tested. For a show built on predictability, positive energy, and carefully curated conversations, these two incidents back-to-back represented a rare break from the norm. It felt like the usual curtain of polish and perfection had suddenly torn, exposing the raw, unfiltered reality of live broadcasting. And when things go off script in front of millions, there's no rewind button. The timing of these incidents sparked broader conversations about the risks of live programming. For decades, morning shows have walked a fine line between spontaneity and safety. Producers encourage lively, engaging interviews, but there are unspoken rules, guidelines that protect the brand and the family-friendly tone of these broadcasts. The two incidents occurring so close together raised questions about whether those rules were still being respected or whether something had shifted in the expectations of both guests and viewers. The tension between entertainment and appropriateness is always present on live television. On one hand, the spontaneity of a live format can produce moments that are authentic, charming, and unforgettable. But when spontaneity veers into territory that's considered crude or shocking, especially during hours when families and children may be watching, it challenges the assumptions about what is acceptable on air. With each unexpected moment, the boundaries get a little blurrier, and the host's role becomes even more crucial, acting as both the conductor and the safety net. The host's response during both incidents demonstrated that balance. She didn't ignore what had happened, nor did she let it derail the segment entirely. Her response, lighthearted yet pointed, acknowledged the breach without creating a bigger scandal. It was the kind of real-time decision-making that only comes from experience and an instinctive understanding of the medium. Her professionalism helped maintain the show's composure even as it veered into unpredictable territory. Viewers, too, reacted with a mix of amusement and concern. Some saw the string of incidents as entertaining and a refreshing break from the overly scripted feel of daytime programming. Others, however, expressed discomfort, feeling that such moments had no place on shows that many turn to for calm, positivity, and information at the start of their day. The dual occurrences prompted a flood of online commentary, memes, and reactions that ranged from laughter to critique, adding a viral layer to the story that extended far beyond the show's typical audience. Behind the scenes, these moments likely triggered serious conversations among producers and network executives. Live television always carries a level of unpredictability, but patterns of unexpected behavior tend to draw scrutiny. Questions about guest vetting, content previews, and delay systems likely came to the forefront. After all, the job of a live production team is to anticipate and manage risk. When lightning strikes twice in 2 days, even seasoned teams have to reevaluate their approach. This wave of on-air surprises also fed into a larger cultural conversation about the role of media in today's world. Are audiences becoming desensitized to shock? Are guests feeling more pressure to create viral moments, even at the risk of breaking protocol? As media landscapes shift and attention becomes a precious currency, some might argue that what once would have been seen as a blunder is now seen as strategy, a way to break through the noise and get people talking. Regardless of the motive, the result is the same. Moments of chaos that stick in the collective memory, leaving producers, hosts, and audiences alike wondering what might happen next. The unexpected moment during the live morning show quickly transcended the boundaries of the broadcast itself, igniting a wave of public reaction that rippled across social media, online forums, and entertainment news outlets. Viewers who caught the gesture in real time took to various platforms to share their astonishment, amusement, and, in many cases, frustration. It wasn't long before short clips, GIFs, and still frames of the gesture were circulating widely, sparking debates not only about the incident itself, but also about the broader expectations for conduct on live television. The moment, though fleeting, had struck a chord, one that was amplified by the digital echo chamber of the modern internet. Some viewers were quick to brush the moment off as a harmless blip, an awkward, perhaps ill-advised attempt at humor or character immersion that simply didn't land as intended. These individuals found the incident more amusing than offensive, often praising the unscripted nature of it. To them, it was a reminder that not everything on TV is prepackaged and predictable. It gave the show a jolt of reality, a sign that even polished media events can veer into the unexpected. Comments like, "Live TV is the Wild West again," and "finally, something unscripted," were common among those who appreciated the moment for its shock value and spontaneity. On the other end of the spectrum, there was a sizable group of viewers who felt the gesture was entirely inappropriate, especially given the time slot and the general tone of the show. Morning programs are generally considered safe territory, a part of the day where families might be watching together over breakfast. For those who value the consistency and safety of that kind of content, the gesture represented a breach of trust. These critics questioned why such behavior wasn't prevented, and some even speculated whether the production team had foreknowledge of the guests' plans and failed to intervene. Complaints were voiced not only online, but reportedly sent directly to the network, with calls for greater oversight and more rigorous guest management. Amid this divided public reaction, the host's handling of the situation came under a separate spotlight. Many lauded her for maintaining professionalism in the face of what could have spiraled into an even more disruptive moment. Her quick reaction, both verbally and physically, signaled to the audience that the gesture was unplanned and unwelcome, helping to distance the show from any appearance of complicity. Her exasperated yet composed comment became something of a viral quote in its own right, further shaping the narrative around the incident and reinforcing her role as the steadying presence amidst the chaos. The incident also underscored how live television remains uniquely vulnerable to viral culture. A moment that might have passed quickly in the past now lives indefinitely online, viewed and reviewed millions of times within hours. Once isolated to a specific audience, these kinds of blunders or surprises are now immortalized on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, often stripped of any broader context. This amplification doesn't just change how people react, it changes how such moments are remembered and how they shape reputations. The show itself, likely not expecting such an avalanche of attention, suddenly found itself at the center of a media frenzy. News outlets picked up the story almost immediately, writing headlines that emphasized the shock factor. Commentators and columnists weighed in, with some using the incident as a jumping-off point to discuss the changing nature of live TV, celebrity behavior, and even the growing challenge of keeping public figures on message during unscripted appearances. The event snowballed into something far larger than the brief few seconds it occupied during the actual broadcast. This kind of moment also brings into focus the difficult balance that live shows must maintain. On one hand, they thrive on authenticity. Viewers are drawn to them because they offer something immediate and unfiltered. But that same quality makes them susceptible to moments that can upset or alienate the audience. Producers walk a tightrope between fostering spontaneity and maintaining control. When something slips through, the consequences can be unpredictable, and in cases like this, dramatic. In the end, the public reaction to the gesture demonstrated not just a clash of sensibilities, but a window into how media moments are consumed and judged in the digital age. What was once an isolated slip-up now becomes a cultural talking point, dissected and memed within hours. And as audiences continue to shift their expectations, some craving more raw, real moments, others seeking comfort and consistency, live television finds itself continually adjusting, responding, and evolving to meet the demands of a viewership that is always watching and always reacting. The fallout from the live television moment offered more than just a burst of internet buzz. It became a case study in the evolving landscape of media, public expectations, and the unpredictable nature of live broadcasting. In an era where every second of screen time can be clipped, shared, and dissected, even a single gesture or offhand remark can create a ripple effect far beyond what was intended. The moment may have been brief, but its consequences were far-reaching, affecting not only the guest's public image, but also raising questions about the boundaries of entertainment and professionalism. While the gesture itself was eventually explained, the surrounding conversation revealed something deeper, a cultural tension between spontaneity and structure, between the desire for authentic, unscripted content and the need for boundaries, especially on platforms that are traditionally family-friendly. For many viewers, it was a reminder that live television is still raw and vulnerable in ways that pre-recorded media simply isn't. Mistakes happen, people go off script, and in those moments, the true character of both guests and hosts is revealed. The host's reaction was widely praised, not just for its immediacy, but for the way it reasserted the tone and integrity of the program in real time without letting the situation spiral. On the flip side, the guest's defense highlighted another aspect of modern celebrity culture. The line between fiction and real-life behavior has become increasingly blurred. Referencing a scene from a show may have made sense in the mind of the performer, but when the audience is left without context, the results can backfire. The digital age doesn't allow for slow explanations. Once a moment goes viral, it often does so without nuance or background, just visuals and sound bites. That reality can be both a gift and a curse, offering unparalleled reach while also creating opportunities for misunderstanding and controversy. In the end, this story became less about one moment and more about what it represents. It's a snapshot of how quickly narratives can form in the public eye, how live media continues to challenge even the most seasoned professionals, and how audience expectations are evolving in real time. It's also a reminder that, while entertainment thrives on energy and spontaneity, there's still a shared understanding of appropriateness that most people expect, especially in spaces that have long been considered safe and structured. The incident may fade from headlines, but its impact will linger in conversations about media responsibility, celebrity conduct, and how live broadcasts can best navigate the thin line between captivating and chaotic. Whether it's seen as a cautionary tale or a sign of changing times, it underscores one thing clearly. In the spotlight,